I didn't ever expect myself to be making a controversy video. Especially on one of my favorite subjects, hyperfixations in the world. But looks like we're there. So to get up to speed, Touhou 20 was recently announced. So somewhat recently. And the demo for it eventually dropped. We were hyped for an anniversary update. Wait, did the demo look really cool? The music was hype. But then basically claims of there being AI backgrounds came out, and the claims weren't really taken seriously because Touhou is generally extremely, completely and totally stainless series. But eventually, pictures came out. Pictures started to look very clearly AI. But it was eventually confirmed when it got taken down from Steam and had to get taken back up. And ZUN put a disclaimer clarifying that it did in fact have AI, which upset and baffled a lot of the fandoms, as that was completely out of character considering that Touhou 19 was created to be an anti-AI game, or at least so we thought. And apparently ZUN finally let out. ZUN finally let out a response to the AI stuff. He said the usage of AI was intentional, and he made use of Adobe Firefly. Which, as was discussed, claims to be clean AI, which only trains on images that Adobe is able to use legally. More than being intentional, ZUN says it was something he explicitly wanted to do in this game for thematic reasons that will become clear enough. ZUN will never. He also said that he would never use AI for the creative side of the game, including design, character ideas, character art, or music. And he also said he's largely anti-AI and does not support AI artists or copyright theft. But he also believes AI is here to stay, and that's what what's more important is to not lose AI as a person or to be afraid of it, which is why he wants to drag it down from his pedestal and treat it nothing more than a tool. And I end up having a lot of thoughts on that statement. He also said he's going to increase the resource for lies and bombs, but the difficulty is he's going to remain the same. But I don't really care if the game is hard. Lol K exists. I have a lot of thoughts on this, but his number. First thing that comes to mind is, firstly, I was a bit suspicious as the Adobe Firefly was a clean source in the first place. Its TOS seems to make it seem like anything uploaded to its marketplace automatically loses its rights. So I'm not sure how trustworthy the claim is in the first place, especially since I've heard apparently Adobe isn't the least sketchy company. And eventually, it turned out I was right. Adobe was not trustworthy. Adobe was not trustworthy in the slightest. Adobe did come down with claims aims of stealing art. In fact, there are headlines of people getting paid to submit copyrighted art or feed into the AI. Right? AI. But AI is not a clean source, and honestly shouldn't trust a corporation like that to be a clean source in the first place. Another point I thought to focus on was as while we can't predict the full game's plot, we make some guesstimates based on where things are going. There are already some change for stagnation themes going on, so it seems weird despite AI, something incapable of making anything truly new by using it, seems to make the theme contradict it. I feel like it's just so look. I might just be honest. I feel like this is literally just completely cooked here. There's no there's no benefit of doubt because the theme is already cooked. I feel like no matter what the theme could possibly be, in all timelines Sans saw, there isn't one where people beat the AI artist EX boss in the full game art, etc. and go, wow, the AI art in this game is so insightful. I hate AI. Like, that's weird, right? That's weird. Especially since, even though he ultimately makes these games for himself, what if people didn't even notice these? It makes it seem like the backgrounds lack creativity, but this is a highly important part of the creative theming. And that's another thing I was thinking of, because like, it feels weird to make a character. You're presumably, is this game gonna have like a character that embodies AI art? That doesn't seem like it would really work. That doesn't even go really work. Like, that represents a hot button issue that's affecting people's jobs directly. Hey, a character like that would be hard. Would be hard to make redeemable and casually using their AI art adjacent moves who's in Touhou 20.5 or something. And it'd be hard to be to love to hate because it hits too real. Imagine being someone who lost their job to AI. I wouldn't want to play that character in 20.5, and it wouldn't be hard to love and to hate them because it's too real. It's too real. Oh. Also, acknowledging the here to stay argument, I don't know why AI bros always love this here to stay argument. It's just nonsense. It doesn't mean anything, so they can just throw fallacies around. You can say that about any bad thing. Murder is here to stay, therefore we should accept murder. You place it for literally any bad thing, and it's just doesn't really work. And it immediately becomes clear why the here to stays thing is just kind of an excuse. And I don't hate ZUN or anything. I'm not here to, but I do want to question his actions in the most respectful way I can, at least. And like, for example, plus under that logic, can you justify using AI for anything? A lot of these arguments have, and it's different because I like it, energy to them. There's no way that can be right, can it? The ends justify the means. It's villain/anti-villain logic, and no one wants to accidentally use it. Who's villain logic, ZUN? If the message ZUN is trying to convey is AI bad, why use AI? And what does people shouldn't lose the AI even mean? How using AI even counter that? It's just kind of a badly conveyed theme in a vacuum. Plus, what about media outside of 20? ZUN's argument hinges on, oh, this is part of 20's theming, but that kind of falls apart since 20 isn't the first time he's used AI, no. On top of implying he regularly used ChatGPT, and also him claiming that he's going to teach his son AI, which he keeps making it seem. People keep trying to make AI seem on a tangent. People keep trying to make AI seem like this a big omnipotent thing, which it really isn't. But there's also suspected images in Touhou 19 that are AI art. Or we just didn't notice them because the claims didn't stick until 20. Are the suspected images in 19 part of the theme too? Seems like it actually goes directly against 19's theme, actually. 19's theme is about throwing in as many characters as possible to make an anti-AI message, wasn't it? When I saw ZUN claim that AI is inevitably going to fall, I thought that was gonna be. Most people seem to think that like AI is inevitably going to fall. Ergo we should be against it. But apparently it seems like ZUN meant AI is inevitably going to fall. Ergo we should support it. 19 is not the only one too. There are promo images he used that were also AI generated. rated. If this is a theme, isn't it weird? And also, this is a theme. Isn't it weird to use it for character backgrounds? If AI is still who use regularly going on, that's still basically supporting AI in the end. But I suppose it isn't as concrete as we don't know for sure yet. I'm willing to. I do admit I am willing to make my bet. And what about when these characters inevitably appear again via Detector 2? That's going to be awkward. or when their backgrounds are still like that. Not to say too much, but a lot of my problem is how this affects things and fans outside of this. A lot of my problem is that this doesn't just affect you, ZUN. Touhou may be your series, but Touhou is one of the most famous doujin series ever. It affects these choices you make affect a lot of things, because you're the source material for almost Creative Commons level doujin material. Well, it's kind of like what Aki said to Aya. Yeah, about how the news arbiter is very important, which stands out a lot since she is one of the few people who try to take Aki's word to heart. Like, for example, what I'm talking about. Like, what if someone got laid off to help do the AI? He wanted to make a Nariko script, because let's face it, she's a cool character and she's getting a lot of fan art and stuff. And they wanted to add her spell card background to it. Her AI spell card background to it. That's going to be awkward, right? What are you supposed to do about that? And answering that has kind of just been thrust on us. That's my problem. That's my problem. Another thing is, though I had a feeling, it's really satisfying to have confirmation that AI will never be used for portraits or writing ideas. You mentioned testing AI, coming up with some writing ideas, so part of me deep down was like really concerned, especially since AI has been known to steal your own writing ideas and also dox you to other people. Though I'm also more concerned as well, as the phrasing makes it seem like BGs don't count as these assets in ZUN's eyes. Also, speaking of that, just because you like one element more than the other doesn't really change anything. This is also completely arbitrary. People used to tell me no one cares about video game music, and this was the series that showed me they can be more. No matter how politely you phrase it, it's still kinda a disrespect to background artists for advocating for people to care about backgrounds less, while also claiming this is a highly irrevocably part of the creative theming. This stance was way less self-contradictory when he just assumed he was lazy and was doing it out of convenience. And all of these arguments can easily be used to defend AI music when I feel like ZUN will be against it once the argument is turned towards music. And he could have easily made a parody of AI. Don't use the seasons to destroy a season. Use a fifth season. Not to mention, arguments can easily be used to defend AI music. You choose to make an argument in the game that draws attention to the backgrounds. The game where the stage-free music comment draws attention to the backgrounds. I don't need to acknowledge the here to stay argument. It just has more holes than Swiss cheese. And speaking of, Touhou's always said morally great things, but it's never advocated for actively carrying anything out in real life besides giving it to charities like Unknown Journey, Mesmerizing Flower. That was made to raise charities in real life, and all the money was donated there. So if all of this was part of using the entirety of Touhou as a big anti-AI plan, then it kind of also has a lot of holes in it, just on paper. Trying to understand ZUN's motivation best I can, trying to steelman it, he seems scared that completely rejecting AI is the same as living in fear of and being controlled by it, when we're rejecting it because it's the best way to deal with it. That's called protest. Doing nothing isn't what's going to stop big execs from doing what's the most profitable. Doing something will. It's a golden mean fallacy, assuming the right solution always lies in the middle, when a lot of the time that's not a good idea. It also doesn't work when applied to his own work. ZUN said Keiki is meant to be a metaphor for an AI overlord, hence why her stage background is all cyberpunk. Applying that logic here, if the human spirits could have done anything about our situation, should they have just sat there and become complacent? With what he's suggesting, which becoming complacent AI, is also the same as being controlled by it. And if the argument is that humanity can remain vigilant while complacent, then they can remain vigilant while rejecting AI too. In other words, this entire train of thought is pointless. It feels like it was born from the Dunning-Kruger effect. The holes appear you've literally just replaced the word AI for evil or anything else of that sort. Humanity's evil will never triumph over humanity's good, but it isn't because good just sat there and ignored it. It's because they did something about it and resolved the incident, if you will. Look at Ice Fairy's account, a Touhou repository account. Now, this plan has already not been working, ZUN. JPAI bros who aren't even fans of Touhou nuked the messenger. Well, I guess there goes a repository of a lot of JP-only Touhou information I was planning to read. Some of that must have been backed up. Maybe. It's like a virus. Giving AI a platform in Touhou only just allows it to grow bigger. This plan is already only emboldening what he wished to destroy on both sides. The thing is, since Touhou's ideals inherently stand against what AI generation is, the best thing he could do was just what he was already doing. You don't de-emphasize AI by becoming complacent to it, you de-emphasize AI by giving the middle finger to it. Which is really ironic now, since the way his lawyer talks makes it seem like if the latter had his way, Touhou would have never had the creative freedom it has. It would have never gained identity and never gained what ZUN makes so much money off of. The explicit entire point of the series is to express beautiful imagery and to be creative. And there's nothing expressive, beautiful, or creative about the weird melty skulls in Asami's spell card background. Which I had to worry about if I could even post in some of the Discord servers I'm in. Wouldn't that break the no AI rule? And how am I asking that about official Touhou content? You can't even say to her, a friend had told me, you can't even say to her officially through the looking glass anymore. We've been on the other side for so long, we forgot what ours looks like. In short, ZUN's post was comforting in some ways, but it's worrying in others, and now we have to worry about making him change his mind, and Dunning-Kruger effect seem to make him really confident this thing will be well received, regardless of us trying to warn him. That makes me glad it doesn't notice as early a development as possible. And all I'm asking for at this point isn't even an apology or anything or whatever, but to just abandon a Swiss cheese plan that his, at worst, literally already failed in every conceivable way, and at best was ignored entirely. For people who don't know, a common concern when these claims came out was apparently generative AI is more accepted in Japan because they have less people breathing down their throats about how AI is going to replace their jobs. But no, apparently some of the JP community is starting to become pretty mad about who was already neutral when they found out the ZUN was using AI. Was pretty mad about ZUN's response because it had a lot of holes in it. That just ages like milk even further when it is now being confirmed that AI is a bubble, is in fact a bubble. By experts. AI isn't the future. It's going to turn out like NFTs. It's just being aggressively pushed by marketers to try to inflate its value, and that's why they try to put AI into things that do not have any into things that don't need AI or be significantly more complicated. You added AI to it. AI isn't the future. They just want to shove AI into as many things as possible so they can establish a stranglehold, a useless capitalist stranglehold. it feels so weird because ZUN usually does so much research on mythology and stuff. He found out what Tenkajin is, and that's only known like what a small village from what I can understand. And yet he didn't do any research whatsoever on AI before he decided he wanted to make a game on an active hot button subject. And just it's seemingly just making it, so that already creates an impression he's making the game entirely off of anecdotes. And haters who turn against ZUN are flaming each other in the fandom, which allowing AI bros to take even more power, are also just attacking ZUN based off of anecdotes instead of the actual problems that need to be solved here. In other words, it's become a mutual citation. The Touhou fandom has become a mutual citation needed situation, and that's kind of crazy. And I truly don't think there's anything the full game can do to really make up for this, considering it's already contradicted itself. All it has established that AI bros have a place in indie spaces like Ray-Taisai. After all, ZUN himself is saying you should use AI. ZUN's entire plan here is to literally normalize it. He's not using it just once. His plan is to literally normalize it, which makes me even more skeptical that he's just going to drop it after this game, since if he wanted to normalize AI, why would he use it for one game, especially since that he's already used it for Touhou in 19, which, as of recording this, still doesn't have a disclaimer for having AI in it, for people who don't want to engage in AI stuff, which almost makes it gives off of the ZUN. The only reason ZUN added the AI disclaimer for Touhou 20 is because he got caught, which I really don't like saying. I really don't. To make this even worse, I mentioned ZUN's lawyer earlier, and that's because Touhou music channels have been taken down on scorched earth by ZUN's lawyer rouhou, who's excessively exercising copyright. It's basically, and that sounds familiar, it's basically the Undertale Yellow situation again. Is even copyrighting the channels without even any cease and desist, just immediately going to striking tons of videos, and causing several channels to just get deleted overnight with no chance of appeal or any warning that it was even going to happen. Again, the fandom had to rely on each other and not the people who should be putting concern into this. And rouhou being so excessive over copyright completely misses the point of Touhou being a doujin series. If things were always like this, Touhou would have never become this popular in the first place, and ZUN would have never been able to make so much money off of it. So at least I've seen a lot of creators literally say that they are worried about what are they going to do, since they're scared if they as much as make an arrange of an official song now, rouhou might take down their entire channel. And what is the answer to that? And again, it's been left onto us for some reason. And I don't like that. I'm aware that it might be possible that ZUN can't do anything since he controls since rouhou controls his publishing stuff, but it is still very concerning, and it's still coupled by several other things he could be doing. Like, for example, another controversy is also blooded. Yep, another one. It also seems that while all this was happening, it led to more attention to Mystia's Izakaya, a fan game, apparently got taken down, presumably by rouhou, but no one knows, for strange reasons after licensing and after release. He's making it seem like apparently it is possible for your licensed Touhou fan game to get infringed after release if it checks notes, has OCs, or has arranges of music from Touhou 17.5, and is enforced wishy-washily. And none of this has been or is even currently on the guidelines, and the people related do not allow you to contact them. It seems what's happening meaning that some kind of Streisand effect may have been awakened. the quote the Twitter thread reporting it, that Touhou is ultimately conjecture. Whatever his reasons may be, if he continues to double down, I can actually see this blowing up in his and ZUN's face pretty substantially. It's caused a significant Streisand effect in that I previously did not know about the code plagiarism in PC98, nor the handling of Mystia Izakaya being presumably threatened with legal action. I'm sure this isn't anywhere near the end of controversial decisions I'll end up learning about. Oh yeah, by the way, hey, the break reading. Yeah, apparently every game after Touhou 3 has reciprocally removes copyright code that shows copywriting details. It scrubbed the copyright details, Touhou 3 to 4 and 5. I don't blame ZUN for this, since that was just a random thing he made. Even Touhou is still a random college project, but the Streisand effect is awakening. To get back to reading, it's driven me from the stance of I don't particularly care about the AI used to. I disagree with ZUN's business practices in general. I imagine many others are going to reach similar conclusions as more is brought to light. To end on a hopeful note, however, none of what drew people to Touhou can really be taken away from them at this point. The characters that ZUN has made so far aren't going anywhere. Even if rouhou continues to go scorched earth, there will always be places to acquire the official media, whether legally or otherwise. The same goes for fanworks. The fact that many of these fanworks are polishing complete products also ensures they won't be mistaken for official media. Of a finished dream of all living ghosts is anything to go by. Which is something I'm gonna get into later. But yeah, it seems weird here that the fan games had to adhere to weird standards to make sure they aren't mistaken for official games, where one, that's kind of always been a thing since Touhou's the Dojin project, and two, it's kind of funny since Touhou, you want talking about sales, Touhou would sell so much better in America if it was marketed better. You know how people are constantly saying only American JP fans care about Touhou, Americans just pirate. Well, the funny thing is, they don't want you to know is, Touhou 19 sold equally well in America and in Japan, and on Steam. It sold equally well, which is interesting since most of the vast majority of the fandom is under the impression that the games sell like shit in America and Japan is the only place where it sells. But no, you can tell everyone that Touhou has reached a point where they sell equally well. If Touhou made any attempt to be more accessible in America instead of having to go through several billion loops you have to get decompiled through TH crap, and put more effort into official translations, the games would likely sell significantly better in America, especially since and the games don't even automatically show up on Steam when you search up certain words because a lot of things only naturally autofill if you're in a Japan region. If in America region, it just doesn't show up on certain searches, Steam searches. And more important, the games would sell significantly better to make any single effort to make them more accessible, and that's proven by how 17.5 and 15.5 also sold significantly better. But the thing is 17.5 and 15.5 do not appeal to Touhou's core audience. 17.5 is this weird Touhou is to get my personal opinion, it's this weird platformer without a jump button, and it pretty much doesn't really have much gameplay replayability outside of the story, and once you've seen the story, it's kind of one and done. And Touhou 15.5 is a fighting game, which is a completely different demographic from the mainline games. And ZUN just simply put a mainline game on Switch or something, and had it officially translated, despite the fact he says Touhou doesn't want to be commercialized, despite the fact that a bunch of this stuff fans are being deprived of stuff because of commercial decisions. And Touhou put more effort into just translating more of the game, considering that 17.5 and 15.5 were only translated because they were made from Tassifro. The games would sell significantly better, and 17.5 and 15.5 that are examples of that too. it also doesn't help that fan game. This is, we'll get into this later too. That fan games have kind of superseded the games themselves by ZUN's own metrics. Like ZUN and himself has stated in INs afterward, which I've recently read, that these games are everything in these games are entirely to service the Danmaku. The characters, everything, even the I felt crazy reading that even the books existed to service the Danmaku in the games. Renosuke existed at that point. You mentioned him earlier in the interview. So looking at the Danmaku in Touhou 20's demo is kind of basic and kind of middling. And Touhou Stage 2 bosses haven't really improved much since Touhou 8. Examples like the Kane and especially Urume. Heck, I've repeatedly expressed ire with Chini spell cards and how they're just discount Marasa, discount Parsi, and discount Patchouli. Meanwhile, you have fan game saying for stage 2 bosses like Chi from Touhou Hollow Song of Birds blows all of them out of the water. So by ZUN's own metrics, the fan games have kind of exceeded the main games. You could say that there's a reason for that, but my point is, by ZUN's own metric, the fan games have kind of superseded the official games at this point. Which leads to a crux of this whole thing that I'll get to later. But the next point is kind of addressed that ZUN, you're kind of just leaving the fandom to fend for itself, not really knowing what to do. Like, Touhou was it's probably my fault. I admit this is probably my fault for getting getting parasocially attached to the series, even if it isn't forming a lot of trust in it. But like, I've seen a lot of people who say they don't know how to feel about the AI situation, and they're coached, and they can't even know how to cope. The way they cope was just involved listening to Touhou music, but Touhou music reminds them of the controversy situation. I understand you're trying your best, ZUN. It feels like you're kind of starting to approach the point where you're starting to feel like you can kind of do whatever you want without considering anyone else. But Jevolication of Touhou, and you can do anything, if you will. Oh, except my corny wording. Because this situation doesn't benefit the people who don't like the situation. It totally benefits the people who are willing to ignore the situation. And we express any we're considered, like, the people who don't really like this situation are going to get brushed off, let's face it. Brushed off like nothing happened, and are called fake fans. I just want to ask, is that really right? Like, I had a friend who was very personally affected by AI situation. Why am I supposed to tell them? I've had friends, I was even trying to get that friend into Touhou and like explain and gushing to them through Touhou music. What am I supposed to tell them? It doesn't even help that friend coincidentally started getting into Touhou recently. I was wondering what was I supposed to tell them? I can't really talk. When I tell them that, it's going to be weird to ever really talk about Touhou music to them, because it's just going to be a giant elephant in the room to don't think about the AI situation. But getting back on subject, it's kind of weird to hear these kind of getting more strict. The IP is starting to get more and more common, since even if ZUN can't stop ZUN very much can at least clarify what the guidelines are, saying that you can get punished for contacting people about them. And you can also just kind of keep the quality of the games themselves in mind. It's something I've been concerned about since 18.5, but ZUN pushing himself to release a mainline Touhou game every 2 years, no matter what the scope of the game is, has kind of incited concerns in me that the games will start losing quality. You can start losing quality due to being rushed. And Touhou 19 was kind of my most realized version of that fear, since ZUN is trying to emphasize Ace's most recent projects. They've gradually started just miss random features due to the desire to pump out a mainline game every 2 years, so it can release for Comic Cat regardless of the game's scope. To quote the description of Jamers's Touhou 19 videos, a super player, the game just completely lost score even though there's a chaining system in place? Huh? Not seeing much replay value in this. You mostly go through the 19 rounds and that's it. You don't even have to 1cc anything either. There is net play, but last I heard, the net play was insanely unusable, with matches either running at 5 FPS or having unplayable input lag. It's always not going to be one of those gimmick games that people play once, never replay, and gets forgotten in a week. And a spoiler alert, breaking away from reading the post. Touhou 19 did get forgotten pretty quickly, ironically enough. Like, there's a reason why Touhou 19 is the most recent game, and yet significantly less people made ranges for Touhou 19 style ranges than Touhou 18 style ranges. And I think that's telling us something. Continuing reading, the continuing graveyard of lost Touhou features. No extra mode, no score, no replays, no player 2 alternate color palette, no timer, no stage display, no boss health bar, no boss enemy indicator, only 6 stages for a versus game, no escape R, no escape Q, no Reimu hitbox, and no boss movement manipulation. And personally, trust me, that last one is very felt when you play the game. And then he just tells you to play Twinkle Star sprites. And yeah, this is just most apparent in Touhou 19, which was just broken, especially on release into a patch was shadow dropped a year later, which I think was the first time there was a non-day 1 patch, like ever. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like Zanmu being stupid OP. Why does her second spell card wall half the screen have to be dodged in a perfectly RNG environment? Which, by the way, alludes to something I'll hopefully get to later if I remember. Or B10 being a stage 5 boss, being weirdly easy compared to anyone, and having no gameplay strategy. Even people in the community have no idea how to use B10 because she has no gameplay strategy. Or if you use one of Rin's basic moves when you're high enough on the screen in the original patch, it instantly killed you. Somehow. Or Chiori in general. Which is just an imbalanced spam fest. 20 seems more, going off the demo seems more consistent, seems to have less visibility issues going off the trial version, but I'm not buying the full game because of AI anyways. Like one of my friend's reactions into the friend server, one of the things that made me so vocal against AI in the first place. I can't just condemn Power World devs or AI, then turn around for a content creator I looked up to who still stand by integrity, you know? Moving forward to a different subject, on a lesser note, the current manga Foul Detective Satori kind of jumped the shark. We're gonna know the detective manga Satori, which has her user ability to solve mysteries. Right, he's trying to find Mizushi Miyaguchi. It had a lot of building up on what her motivation is and why she hates the Hakure Shrine so much. And eventually, a lot of it turned out a lot of the manga turned out to be filler that regularly threw away Chekhov's gun. And that's unfortunately, from what I've heard from other people, is a problem with a lot of manga recently. That is a problem ZUN never managed to get over. ZUN will establish a concept, but then the manga will be 90% filler until ZUN decides that the manga is about the end. From what I heard, apparently Lotus Eaters is having a lot of just ZUN using his character as a mouthpiece to easily say boomer shit, apparently. I haven't read it, so I wouldn't know. but a lot of it, of Shin Detective Satori, or Foul Detective Satori, he turned out to be filler that threw away Chekhov's gun regularly, and Marissa kept getting jobbed at every possible opportunity. Which doesn't help, because a thing the games do is keep giving Marissa the short end of the stick gameplay-wise, or minimizing her story role whenever possible. Cool. Marissa's lasers have been nerfed for years, and she keeps finding a way to being one of the most inconvenient characters to use in a lot of games she's in. And on the story role, like, Marissa's role in the entirety of Touhou 19 has to get distracted by a shiny object for the entire rest of the game. He's basically written out of the plot. The series basically only kind of claims that Marissa is the protagonist at this point. And Marissa's role in 17.5 is so minimal, even compared to smaller characters. I've seen people legitimately think it was the only route in the game that wasn't canon. If that's not a sign of something, I don't know what is. That also highlights a problem. The Touhou 19 story is also kind of scuffed too. Along with but I will hopefully get to that later as well. But even though the manga is literally called Foul Detective Satori, ZUN literally said in an interview that he decided he wasn't focusing on Reimu and Marissa enough, so he shifted focus to them. So there are 15 consecutive chapters in a row, if I recall correctly, in the manga we waited for, where Satori literally didn't appear. And I can't stress enough, in the manga called Foul Detective Satori. I hope you know that I'm exaggerating my voice for a fact, but it is kind of wild. I mean, Marissa getting distracted for a shiny object, I tried for the entirety of Touhou 19. He does feel in character, but like, wow, we can't call her the protagonist after that. And Marissa's screen time in Shin Detective Satori was exclusive to getting jobbed in fight/ambushes, getting poisoned, or not being able to do anything. So really, the manga just focuses on Reimu, and that's not really an alternate perspective, if unusual. They keep Marissa and Satori out of the final fight because all Sun Oku's sons being radioactive matters for some reason, but only selectively. Reimu's fine. And Mizuchi's motivation for why she hates the Hakure finally gets revealed in the second to last chapter of the manga. And all it had to do was be significantly sad enough for you to understand why some characters decided to help her when they heard it. And it sucked. Like, it was so poorly explained, and she brought it up thinking it'd make Reimu lose supporters too. I don't know why it wasn't just simply the Hakure Shrine had the Gucci clan killed to make modern Gensokyo without opposition. But instead, she just says as the most confusing thing ever, moves on to fighting Reimu. Like, I was talking about this to my friend earlier, and they were asking me, like, what was it? And I couldn't even explain it. I had to just send down the manga to show them an explanation, and even then they were still confused. Like, I just legitimately do not understand her motivation. Like, you look up Mizuchi's motivation for why she hates the Hakure, the first result is a Reddit post saying, "Did anyone understand Mizuchi's grudge details?" And I like the piece of the cake that made me go from neutral to putting Mizuchi at the bottom of my favorite character poll. Lily White was at the top, if you're wondering. Was this. ZUN saying Foul Detective Satori will continue after this current arc. Apparently this is just the starting line. Mizuchi is the real protagonist of Foul Detective Satori. He said, now that everyone is aware of Satori, we are at the starting line. The main character is Satori, but the real main character is Mizuchi, quote unquote. Like, what? Why does he refuse to make Foul Detective Satori about Satori, man? And the thing that gets under my skin so much that I hope anyone listening to this understands is it's just so weird, because usually everything in this series has really intelligent design and writing. For interviews for 19, I can't even understand his decision or what he's on about with his explanations. I'm not mad, I'm not even that disappointed, I'm just confused. Like, to get into an explanation of some of the pins I laid down earlier. Like, I think ZUN says, so I read Touhou 19's interview recently to try to understand more things about it, but maybe because a lot of it was mistranslated, but it's so confusing to understand, even if you try to account for mistranslations. Like, he kept constantly speaking in a way that made me wonder, ZUN, do you know that not Touhou 9 exists? ZUN, do you know that Touhou 14.5 exists? Like, he's constantly talking about how how Touhou 19 is this revolutionary game, and it's a wonder how games like this can be made nowadays. And I'm just kind of wondering, is it? Because eventually, at this point, Touhou has lost so many of its attributes, including being fan-friendly and DMCAing people for little reason. At a point where, at what point does this become different from a AAA company? Because, like, you're pumping out games every few years to meet a deadline, and the main thing people even take away from it is the funny character designs. That's just the modern Pokemon situation. That's not niche and never heard of. That's basically every AAA nowadays. And Touhou loses a lot of its features, like whenever possible, like score. It really is just it can really start adding up to be just up to Touhou just kind of losing a lot of what made it different from it different from any other series, or a lot of what made people even get into Touhou in the first place. Sorry, recentering. One of the main things he said about 19 is like, it has so much more music than the originals. I'm so proud of it. But the thing is, 19's I was expecting it, like, we were so hyped, but 19 frankly didn't meet most of his expectations the fans had going into it. But the fandom just kind of ignored that, because they kind of quickly forgot 19 in general as well. And the main reason, despite the fact that for the longest time, it was still the time I was writing most of this was still the latest Touhou game release. He said that Touhou 19 has, in the Touhou 19's music, and Touhou, when he was expecting, was like, oh, the rearranges, because the rearranges in Touhou 9 in other games were so cool, and the music's going to be ZUN written, so it's going to be really cool this time. But then most of the music is just MIDI slaps of the original, but not different MIDI slaps, just pretty much the original, but very, very less than usual, slight differences, even compared to POFB, most songs in POFB. Like, in the interview, it says, 19 has so many more themes than Touhou 9 did. But you know what? I've been considering this for a while, but I counted, and unless I'm wrong, POFV and Udall have the same amount of themes. They have 13 new themes. But despite the fact that 19 has significantly more characters than 9. And that's assuming you don't count Chirno and Misty's theme, which add new parts or are entirely redone from scratch. And that's just also if you do count 19's pre-battle themes, which ZUN himself didn't, since he didn't put it anywhere in the music, the egg rooms, and he didn't name them, which is weird, since like a cool detail in Touhou 9 is even the pre-battle themes got named. Which Touhou Touhou losing features that is unique features that made people get unique features that made it unique as a series. And then a friend corrected me and said that's also not even necessarily the most accurate read. That really means more of the returning characters get new themes in 9 and then 19 actually. 3 and 19 for 9. There's only one less new ho, and if you count Aya, given that 9 is her first in-game appearance, they have the same amount, which is true, and also the estimate I made was also being forgiving since it also didn't count Wind God Girl, despite the fact that most people associate Wind God Girl with being from Touhou 9 at 9, even though it originated from an album, and also. C, 9's retreads were larger scale remix of the songs, including new sections, having overhauled rhythms, and being given new instrument sets. While 19's are almost all the same with 2 changed instruments and a new bass. And it doesn't help that apparently, from what I've heard, Touhou music has kind of stopped using background strings for making songs sound quieter, and they started using more repetitive drum patterns. And it doesn't help up if 19's arranges are kind of mixed weirdly. Apparently, from what I've heard from some composers, some of the songs in 20's demos are also mixed weirdly. A lot of songs add choirs, they're just, and makes some instruments just way too louder than other instruments, to the point where the song harmonizes worse, you can't hear some instruments. Like, there are some parts where you can't even really hear the guitars in Saki's theme anymore because they're drowned out by the loud-ass choirs. And I could make an entire separate video on 19. I'll make an entire separate video on 19's music, since I noticed that 19's music doesn't really fit Touhou, the game's theme, which is weird at all, which is weird since the title theme and ending theme and staff roll theme do. And it keeps emphasizing being about Beast, and most importantly, every other game in the entire series except for Touhou 4 does fit what the game is about tonally. I was like, said that the game felt like the songs were less so Beast themed and more so about Fun's generic summer adventures. And I was right, because apparently in the Touhou 19 interview, ZUN revealed that he was out of ideas. He was out of ideas, so he just made the song sound generic. I was right, I guess. That also kind of stinks. I was having high expectations with 18.5's being like, oh cool, we're gonna have songs themed around Marissa's style. And then a lot of them weren't, and I was like, oh, what happened? And I read the music comments, and he said, yeah, I basically gave up trying to make the songs fit Marissa, and I was like, what? Another thing that felt weird about the interview is when I'm talking about the gameplay. So it's like, apparently, a Touhou 19 be unpinning a pin. Touhou 19's gameplay being somewhat broken was somewhat intentional because ZUN wanted to make it more likely for you to get hit. So you would have to use the shield mechanic. But instead, he just made it so the entire game you just get a game. You can just die to complete Zanmu RNG. It gets completely beyond your fall, and there's not really anything you could really do. And a lot of what he said in the interview was just a lot of characters. Touhou 19 is the best characters have ever been in the series. And which I personally disagree with that claim. I feel like he thinks the game is way more adventurous than it was, when a lot of it is going around the same few stages in Gensokyo, and when something adventurous is about to start up, Zanmu shows up and literally tells them to stop that with no funnel outside. And then he just kind of never really elaborates on what he means on the subject, so it's just kind of shrugged. I get into all of this, and I spent a lot of time getting into this in this video, since I want to say overall, my personal problem with 19's plot, to keep it brief, is it builds up the Beast arc for years, and when the end of the arc, and then when it's at the end of the arc, the conflict is solved mostly off screen by this out of nowhere character, and now this game is actually about them. And takeaway of every ending is what that new character is doing. The game in practice feels more like a completely different arc that just so happens to include the antagonists from Touhou 17 as characters. And I was anticipating a counter argument about how maybe the Beast arc had already ended. This was meant to be a new ZUN AI arc. And one of the main things that gets hammered in the Touhou 19 interview I read was, nope. Hard no to that crack theory. It was intended to be the end of the finale of the Beast arc in every conventional sense, so I don't have to worry about people saying that. Problem with a lot of 19's plot is basically just the characters never really do anything, because whenever the characters are about to do anything, ZUN AI shows up with no fun allowed sign and says no. It's also weird to say the game is about the animal realm when or even about beasts, when the game is frankly kind of more about hell, which is emphasized by the fact you only go to animal realm 3 times in the entire game, and one of those times was on a whim because of Rin, and just felt like it. You know, you go to hell constantly, and then it's like, oh, so the game must say a lot about hell then, but then it doesn't really. Like, it drops a big lore bombshell that ZUN AI created new hell. Doesn't elaborate much on elaborates a few lines on that and then moves on. And despite how much time we spend in hell in this game, we don't really do much in hell, which is true. So the game Touhou 19's plot is just really strange as well. I think a lot of that is a product of Touhou games starting to get more rushed. I feel like this also kind of leans more into the Jevil location of Touhou I was talking about. It feels like the game could literally have anything in it, and if ZUN just dropped a bombshell lore bit that's only elaborated upon in a few lines, hence the game instantly becomes a lot more memorable now. How? Which also leans into more of her weird writing decisions that kind of pop up of how like, it keeps bringing up random last-second unforeshadowed concept ups into the more recent games, which I hope it doesn't become a trend. Like at the last second it brings up, oh, you see, Fondre didn't kill Yuma, he vanquished the greedy spirit of Yuma, so now she's turned back to normal. It's like, where, out of complete last second nowhere, and then at the complete last second it's in Touhou 19, it brings up random lore about ZUN AI at the last second, how to resolve that. So I hope it doesn't become a trend in Touhou 20, though I am willing to bank my money that if the game doesn't have that interesting of a plot, the fandom ZUN can just drop a random vaguely elaborated lore bomb in the game, and that will fix it, I guess. This section in the video seems pretty is a bit rambly, and I'm sorry for that. But what I'm trying to hopefully get the point across of is, it feels so weird. It feels so weird since everything in the series usually has really intelligent design and writing, but interviews for 19, I can't even understand his decisions or what he's on about with his explanations. I'm not mad, I'm not even that disappointed, I'm just confused. Which, when talking about my friend, and they said maybe ZUN is getting desperate to reveal that Rei Mari is secretly canon, and yeah, I think that's gonna be my copia. An older interview, ZUN was very clear and very precise in what he meant. It meant to the point where a common thing ZUN said, it was like ZUN lived in Gensokyo himself. And that was a comment that resonated in my mind a few years ago when I first became a fan, and I wanted to make something like that. Nowadays, I just don't even understand what he's even talking about in interviews, and it feels like he half answers the question at the time. I'm not mad, I'm just confused. It feels like I'm watching someone behave out of character, or anything else. Like, my most remembered moment from reading that interview was when an interesting question about the ghost characters, and he just non sequitured, "Oh, that's because the characters are fantasy spirits." And I was like, what the fuck is a fantasy spirit? That's not like an established species or anything. He just said that mid-interview. I talked to translators who fan translated Kirby's Star Allies and Lore Keepers, and they couldn't make sense out of it. It's genuinely just kind of crazy. What? That's gonna be a meme for in my head for a long time. What the fuck is a fantasy spirit? It also it's kind of funny. So like the Kirby people I asked, almost everyone there either wasn't aware what the plot of Touhou 19 is, or couldn't be asked to remember it. And I think that's kind of telling of the kind of impact Touhou 19's plot had on the wider community, even for people who are aware of the games and the lore. And so we approach the conclusion of the video. Overarching theme of all of this, as I mentioned earlier, here is an overall feeling that ZUN is getting a little bit too over cocky, like he can do anything. The Chevolication of Touhou. He should continue to pump out games every 2 years, even though he himself is saying that he finds the process of doing so tiring. So maybe he should take breaks. But no, you guess you just have to make games every 2 years. No matter what. Cause at a certain point, it stops. You got to wonder if it stops being an accomplishment and starts kind of feeling more like pride. The fact that one thing that made Touhou popular is how the series was made mostly by one guy, but the quality ends up sinking because the games have to come out every 2 years, and that's not something really unique to Touhou, and it's not really something that's uniquely indie or doujin at all. You can just look at any AAA series, he's for that. You can especially look at something like Pokemon. And the second theme I notice is is connected to the first theme, because basing it and just complete anecdotes, citation needed behavior. Even on both sides, ZUN saw a serious subject and decided that he wasn't gonna do a single bit of research on it, and he would just criticize it, and he would make a game critiquing it based off of vibes, I guess. And and a lot of the more toxic side of the fandom, which not cool. I don't support harassment towards anyone, especially to people here in this scenario. Attacks ZUN based off of vibes instead of stuff he was actually doing. From what I can tell, apparently the Maidens of Kaleidoscope websites become totally toxic and not even fun to be on anymore, from what I've heard from secondhand accounts. So yeah. So that leads me to the moral. Trying to become more, try to become more mindful. Try to become more mindful of that kind of stuff. You have to look. Like, sometimes when serious situations happen, you have to think about things yourself and come to your own conclusion. You have to come to your own, Like, you're making a game, you should be able to research on a serious subject, you should research it instead of just criticizing it based off of vibes. At that point, both sides become kind of analogous to a Twitter user. But on top of me liking to start putting themes and morals in my videos, This time, I would also like to propose a solution. Since I know a lot of Touhou fans that's what a lot of Touhou fans are here for. That's what a lot of Touhou fans are wondering about. Despite the problems with AI in Touhou, the thing about Touhou is like I said earlier, the best way ZUN could apply AI was simply he just doing what he already did. Touhou isn't. One of the things that made me feel proud was that Touhou is an inherently anti-AI series. It stands for creation and beauty and collaboration and everything about the Doujin spirit, which ZUN himself is unfortunately giving up when he basically advocates for normalizing the lack of that and providing spaces for it. And making excuses to throw out back, excuses to make background artists not matter. I can't even put the box art in the thumbnail because it is AI art, but you could have had. There's a opportunity to hire an artist, is to give them a job of working for their favorite series and making the box art for themselves. It's a win-win, and you don't have to. ZUN doesn't have to put less effort into game making trying to find backgrounds. It's one thing we had the benefit of since again it was one thing we had the benefit of a doubt that maybe just accidentally found the images, even though nowadays you can't reverse image search them, so it's possible he outright AI generate images himself. So that's what I want to entirely invert her. I want to embody the Doujin spirit. I don't hate you at all, but I don't know how to feel about you right now. I don't want to FWU you. I need some space to think, but I also want to see the situation of people in the fandom who are definitely going to just get all their concerns dismissed and and try to help them. I'm going to try to start making a collaborative fandom project celebrating, trying to celebrate celebrating all the fan works people made, especially since a lot of fan games nowadays it has superseded the main work. I mean, like this is Touhou we're talking about. This is V fandom where the that's completely insane, even in comparison to Undertale. A lot of fans are just in a complete secondary layer where they don't even know that anything after Touhou 11 exists. It's in fan game, and like I mentioned earlier, fan games themselves will kind of supersede the quality of their actual mainline games. I mean, there's any fandom who can be able to survive off of fan works. It has to be us, right? I'm going to try to create a fan I'm going to right now announce trying to make that Touhou fan project a literary piece somewhat akin to Perfect Memento in Strange Sense, cataloging characters from catalog Touhou fan characters and try to make projects collaborating with Touhou fan creators in any way I can. And on top, and we'll be playing main game. I was planning on shifting my account to playing Touhou mainly, but instead I'm going to shift it to playing mostly Touhou fan games and trying to shout out and platform them. I'm going to call this project Novel of Arcadia Immigration, and try my best to try to shepherd the fandom and do our best. I truly believe that if we work together, we can get through this. ZUN and Rue just wants to just dump out the problem on us and just have it figure it out ourselves. Fine. And we'll figure out how ourselves as a community, as a strong, single beating heart. I think that's the spirit of Touhou in the Dojin community. Don't lose hope. It will get better, and I'll try to make sure. And when we work together, we can try to make sure that it can get better. To try to provide sources for ourselves, like those mentioned earlier in the video. Touhou has become something so collaborative, almost Creative Commons, that nothing about it can be taken away. It can't be taken away from us, no matter how much, no matter how much anyone tries. I'll be trying to create an update on Whole of Arcadia immigration, and as soon as I possibly can, and to all the Touhou fans, and maybe even non-Touhou fans or new Touhou fans watching this,